Some promises are made quietly, like secrets, while others happen in the freezing wind of a Dakota winter, where staying alive takes more than just wishing. When sadness has broken your heart and left you chopping wood with sore hands, sometimes help comes from a huge cowboy who says things straight. Ephraim Cutter is almost 7.5 feet tall, as wide as a barn door, with hands strong enough to snap a horse's neck or gently hold a tiny bird. Delilah Marsh, a 30-year-old woman whose husband died, has been toughing it out for 2 years since he froze in the mountains. Her house is falling apart, her food is running out, and winter's coming quick. When Ephraim sees her struggling alone, he takes off his hat and makes a simple promise. By winter, you'll have my baby growing in you. But when a woman's heart is cold from loss, can even the kindest promise warm it up? Before we go on, tell us where you're listening from. And if this story grabs you, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow I've got something really cool planned. The October wind sliced through Delilah Marsh's old wool shawl like a knife through paper, bringing the threat of a winter that would challenge everyone on the Dakota frontier. At 30, she'd learned promises often break, scattered like leaves, across the wide plains. Her rough hands held the axe tighter as she lifted it over a tough piece of oak, splitting it with a loud crack that bounced off her little house's worn-out walls. 2 years had passed since Thomas froze to death, carrying firewood from Eagles Pass. His body found 3 days later by searchers, still holding their old mare's reins. The horse made it home, but Thomas didn't. Delilah still wore his wedding ring on a chain around her neck. The gold tapped her chest with every swing of the axe, reminding her of what she'd lost and what she could still lose. The house that once felt like a safe place now seemed to laugh at her efforts. The roof leaked in 2 spots, leaving rusty stains on the white walls she'd painted with hope 4 years ago. The barn door hung crooked on broken hinges, and foxes had stolen half her chickens last month. Every day showed she was losing her fight against the wild land, but every morning she got up before sunrise to keep fighting. Her closest neighbor, Martha Henley, lived 3 miles east with her husband Carl and their 2 grown boys. They'd offered help more times than Delilah could count, but taking help felt heavy, like a wet blanket. She'd taken a basket of jam last month and felt guilty for weeks. Pride was sometimes all she had left, and she held it tight. The sound of hooves on hard ground made her stand up, shielding her eyes from the pale morning sun. A rider came from the north, sitting tall, on his horse like he owned the land. As he got closer, Delilah caught her breath. Even far away, you couldn't miss how big the man was. Ephraim Cutter rode his huge stallion like a king looking over his land, though his land was just endless grass and sky. Stories about him spread everywhere. Tales of a man who could lift a full-grown cow with his bare hands, who walked 50 miles through a snowstorm to bring medicine to a sick kid, who talked to horses like they understood him. Some said he had giant blood from the old country. Others thought he was part Indian, though his hair was the color of wheat in fall, and his eyes were the pale blue of a winter sky. Everyone agreed Ephraim Cutter was different, not quite fitting with regular folks, but somehow needed. He'd come from the mountains 3 weeks ago, staying at the town's boarding house, asking about land for sale. More than one dad pushed his daughter toward Ephraim on Main Street, but he ignored the giggling girls in their fancy Sunday dresses. Older women whispered he might not want to marry, but they were more curious than judging. Now he was on her land, and Delilah suddenly noticed her patched dress and messy hair. She put down the axe and wiped her hands on her apron, waiting as he got off his horse with the smooth moves of someone comfortable in his huge body. "Mrs. Marsh," he said, taking off his hat to show hair that shone like gold in the sun. His voice was deep and careful, like every word mattered. "Hope I'm not bothering you, Mr. Cutter." She nodded slightly, keeping things polite like she was supposed to. "You're welcome here, but I don't have much to offer." He pointed at the pile of chopped wood and the axe in her hands. "Looks like you're getting ready for winter. Out here, every day's about getting ready." She looked at her beat-up house through his eyes, the sagging porch, cracked windows, and garden where weeds were taking over. "You do what you gotta do." "Yup, you do." He stepped closer, and she had to look up to meet his eyes. Something in his face made her heart beat faster, not exactly scared, but like this moment would change everything. "I've been watching you, Mrs. Marsh." Her cheeks got hot. "Sir, Not like a guy creeping on a woman," he said fast, his big hands nervously turning his hat. "Watching like I respect you. You've been working this land alone for 2 years, and you're still here. That's special strength." Delilah's eyes stung with tears, maybe from being thankful or just tired. "Strength doesn't fix a leaky roof or fill an empty kitchen." "No," he agreed, "but it's what everything else stands on." He paused, looking at her face so closely she wanted to look away. "I'm here to make you an offer, Mrs. Marsh. Not the usual kind a woman gets from a stranger. But these aren't usual times, and I'm not a usual guy." She hugged herself, feeling cold even in the October sun. "What kind of offer?" "The kind that might keep us both from being alone another winter." He stepped back, giving her room to breathe and think. "I'm 34, Mrs. Marsh. I've got good land up in the mountains, with water and trees. I've got money saved and skills to keep us fed and warm. What I don't have is a wife, and you don't have safety." His words hit her hard. She'd expected a lot from this talk, but not a marriage proposal from a guy she'd never spoken to before. "Mr. Cutter, I know it sounds crazy," he went on, his voice kind but strong. "A guy showing up talking about marriage, when we barely know each other's names. But I've lived long enough to know sometimes your heart sees what your brain hasn't figured out yet." "My heart?" She laughed, but it wasn't funny. "My heart's buried by the church, Mr. Cutter. What's left is just a woman trying to make it to spring. Maybe that's enough to start." He put his hat back on, tilting it like he was thinking. "I'm not asking you to love me, Mrs. Marsh. I'm asking you to let me take care of you, and in return you can give me something money can't buy." "What's that?" "A family." The word hung between them like a bridge she wasn't ready to cross. "I want kids, Mrs. Marsh. I want to leave more than just stories about a giant in the mountains. You're young enough and strong. You could give me sons." Delilah felt the world shift, like the ground moved under her. Part of her brain, the part that kept her alive these 2 years, started thinking about his offer: safety, protection, an end to the loneliness that was always with her. But the part that still wore Thomas's ring pushed back against replacing him so easily. "I need time to think," she said at last. "Of course." He touched his hat in respect. "Winter's coming, ready or not, Mrs. Marsh. I'll be in town another week at Mrs. Patterson's boarding house. When you decide, you know where I am." He got back on his horse with the same easy moves as before. But as he started to ride off, Delilah called out, "Mr. Cutter?" He turned, eyebrows raised. "Why me?" "There are younger women in town. Prettier ones with money and families to back them." A small smile appeared. "Because when I saw you chopping wood, I saw a woman who doesn't quit. That's worth more than any money in Dakota." Then he rode away, leaving Delilah with her axe and a choice that would change her life. She picked up another piece of wood, but her hands shook too much to chop. Instead, she sat on her porch. Steps, pulled Thomas's ring from her dress, and held it to the light. "What do I do, Thomas?" she whispered to the air. "What do I do?" The wind got stronger, blowing leaves across the yard, carrying the smell of snow that was still weeks away. But for the first time in 2 years, winter didn't seem so scary. Somewhere in town, a giant man was waiting for her answer. And for the first time since Thomas died, Delilah Marsh had something to hope for. 3 days later, Delilah saw Ephraim Cutter again, 3 days where his words stuck with her through every chore. She paused to look in her cracked mirror, wondering what he saw that made him think she could be a mom to his kids. The woman staring back looked too thin, too worn out by sadness and work to carry such dreams. On the 4th morning, she found him on her porch steps holding his grandfather's pocket watch. The gold watch gleamed in the early light, covered with symbols she couldn't read from far away. He looked up as she opened the door, his face calm but determined. "Mrs. Marsh." He stood, closing the watch with a soft click and tucking it into his vest. "Sorry for the early visit. You've been waiting a while." She pulled her shawl tight, aware of her loose hair and bare feet on the cold porch. "Long enough to see the sun rise." He pointed to the east, where pink and gold painted the sky. It's pretty country, even if it's tough. A good place. For kids. His straight talk about kids made her catch her breath. Mr. Cutter, I know you haven't decided, he said, stepping closer. She smelled leather and pine, a scent that seemed to follow him. But I need to tell you something to help you decide. She waited, her heart beating too fast. This watch was my grandfather's. He brought it from Norway when he was just 18. Ephraim pulled it out again, showing her the fancy carvings. He carried it through 40 years of farming in Minnesota, through good times and bad, losing 2 wives and raising 6 kids. When he gave it to my dad, he said it wasn't just for telling time. It was for remembering every moment matters, especially the ones that shape the future. Delilah stepped closer to look at the watch's careful work. It's beautiful. My dad carried it 30 years until he died in a logging accident when I was 22. Ephraim's voice got quieter. Before he passed, he gave it to me and said not to give it away until I was ready to give my name to a woman and my life to building something lasting. His words felt heavy, like morning frost. And you think I'm that woman? I think you're a woman who knows time isn't for wasting. He looked at her steadily. I'm 34, Mrs. Marsh. Most men my age have wives and kids, roots deep enough to stand any storm. I've waited too long for the right moment, the right woman. But watching you these weeks, seeing you fight for what's yours even when it's hard, that told me everything. Delilah's cheeks warmed. You barely know me. I know you get up before dawn to feed animals that barely give milk. I know you fix your own fences and patch your roof, even when it's too much for one person. I know you've worn the same dress 3 days because you only have 2 that aren't falling apart. His voice was kind, not judging. And I know you loved your husband enough to wear his ring 2 years after he died. She touched the chain at her neck, feeling Thomas's ring. Love doesn't stop just because someone dies. No, it doesn't. But life keeps going whether we're ready or not. Ephraim put the watch away, his face serious. Mrs. Marsh, I'm not asking you to forget your husband. I'm asking you to let me stand with you while you build something new, something that honors what you had and reaches for what you could have. His words felt like a promise and a challenge. Delilah thought of her empty house, the quiet nights when work was done, leaving only memories and regrets. What exactly are you offering, Mr. Cutter? Marriage, partnership, a future that doesn't depend on you chopping enough wood to stay warm. He paused, picking his words. I'm saying by winter, you'll have my baby growing in you, and by spring, you'll have a family again. His bold words should have shocked her, but they warmed her chest. His certainty was comforting, his willingness to say what most people only whispered. And if I can't have kids, if my body won't do it, then we'll face that together, like married folks do. His answer came fast. But I've seen how you care for your animals and garden even when it's hard. You've got a mother's heart, Mrs. Marsh. I believe your body will follow. Delilah looked out at her land, seeing every flaw where she'd failed, but also where she'd won. The garden that fed her, the chicken coop she fixed, the wood pile that showed she wouldn't quit. People will talk, she said. People always talk. The question is, do you care more about their gossip or your own survival? She studied his confident face. You make it sound easy. Some things are simple, even if they're not easy. He stepped back, giving her space. I'm not a romantic guy, Mrs. Marsh. I won't bring you flowers or poems, but I'll work with you, protect you, provide for you, and when you're ready, I'll love you with all I've got. His promise made her throat tight. When had anyone offered to care for her like that? When had anyone valued her so much? How long would you wait for the wedding? As long as you need, but winter's coming fast, and I'd rather have you in my house before the snow's too deep. His practical care touched her. 2 weeks, 3. 1, she said, surprising herself. 1 week. His eyebrows went up. You sure? No. Her honesty surprised them both. But I'm sure another winter alone will break me. And I'm sure you're offering something I didn't dare hope for. What's that? A chance to live, not just survive. Ephraim's face softened, showing the man beneath his tough exterior. Then it's settled. 1 week from today, if you'll have me. 1 week. She held out her hand, and he took it gently in his big ones, his touch warm. But I have rules. Name them. I keep my name until the ceremony, and I keep this house, at least for now. I need to know I have somewhere to go if it doesn't work. Agreed, though I hope you'll find my house cozier, especially in winter. She thought of his land in the mountains with water and trees, a place built for a family. Where's your property? About 20 miles north, in the foothills by Eagle's Pass. The same place Thomas died, she realized. Good hunting, good grazing, a spring that runs all year. I've been building the house 3 years, always hoping for a wife to share it with. And now you will. Now I will. He let go of her hand, but stayed close. Mrs. Marsh, I don't take this lightly. Marriage is sacred, not just a deal. When I give you my name and you give me yours, it's forever. His serious tone made her chest tight. I understand. To you? Because once we're married, once you're carrying my child, there's no going back. You'll be mine, and I'll be yours, for better or worse. His words should have scared her, but they thrilled her. When had anyone claimed her so fully? I understand, she said, meaning it. He nodded, satisfied. I'll talk to Reverend Morrison today to plan the wedding. Anything special you want for the ceremony? Simple. Just simple. She paused. And I'd like Martha Henley to stand with me if she's okay with it. Of course. I'll ask Carl to stand with me. He put his hat back on, ready to go. 1 week, Delilah. 1 week and everything changes. After he left, Delilah sat on her porch, holding Thomas's ring to the light. The gold was worn smooth, a simple band for simple promises. But maybe it was time for something more, something that fit the woman she'd become. 1 week, and she'd be Mrs. Ephraim Cutter, and by winter, if he was right, she'd be pregnant. The thought should have scared her, but it filled her with hope she'd almost forgotten. The next morning, Martha Henley showed up before sunrise, her face red from the 3-mile ride, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. She tied her horse to the post and marched to the porch where Delilah was fixing a torn skirt. Well, Martha said, hands on her hips, are you going to make me guess? Or tell me why everyone's talking about Ephraim Cutter visiting you twice in 4 days? Delilah put down her needle and met her friend's excited eyes. He asked me to marry him. Marry him? Martha's voice got loud. Delilah Marsh, you barely know that man. We've talked plenty these past days. Delilah stood, smoothing her dress. And I said yes. Martha's jaw dropped. Then she sat on the porch step, shocked. You've lost it. Grief's messed with your head. My head's fine, thanks. Delilah sat back down, picking up her sewing. My situation, though, isn't. Your situation? Martha looked at the falling-apart house, the patched walls, the signs of struggle. Oh, Delilah, how bad is it? Her friend's worry broke through Delilah's defenses. Bad enough I won't make it through another winter alone. Bad enough that marrying a stranger feels like the smartest choice in 2 years. Martha was quiet, her practical side fighting her protective side. Tell me about him. Really, not just town gossip. He's straight up, almost too honest. He wants kids and thinks I can give them to him. Delilah paused, thinking of how Ephraim looked at her, not with pity, but with respect. He's offering safety, Martha. A real home, not just a place to scrape by. And what are you giving him? The question hung like morning fog. What was she offering? A worn-out widow with rough hands and a heart stuck on a dead man. Whatever he needs, she said finally. A wife, a mom for his kids. Someone to stand with him when things get tough. Martha stopped Delilah's busy hands. And love? What about it? Her sharp tone surprised them both. Love didn't keep Thomas warm in that storm. Love didn't fix the roof or put food on the table after he died. Maybe it's time for something practical. You love Thomas. I still love Thomas. Delilah touched the ring at her neck. I'll always love Thomas, but he's gone, and I'm here. And Ephraim Cutter's giving me a chance to stay alive. Martha was quiet, looking over Delilah's hard-fought land. When? 1 week. A simple ceremony at the church. 1 week? Martha's eyebrows shot up. Delilah, that's barely time to... To what? Plan a big party we can't afford? Order a dress I'll never wear again? Invite family too far to come? Delilah put her sewing down, restless. Why wait, Martha? To second-guess myself? To let doubt talk me out of it? Are you making a mistake? That question kept Delilah up all night, listening to the wind shake her loose boards. Was she trading one uncertainty for another? Was it fair to Ephraim, marrying him while her heart was still Thomas's? I don't know, she admitted. But I know what another winter alone looks like, and I can't do it again. Martha nodded, understanding slowly. What do you need me to do? The simple question, with no judgment, made Delilah's eyes water. Stand with me. Be there when I make this choice. Of course. Martha squeezed her hand. And after, when you're Mrs. Ephraim Cutter, living 20 miles away in the mountains? I don't know, Delilah said. I guess I'll learn to be someone new. They spent the morning sorting Delilah's things, deciding what to take to her new home and what to leave. It was hard, seeing 6 years of marriage packed into a few boxes. In the back bedroom, Martha found Thomas's unfinished rocking chair, the wood smooth but incomplete. It stopped them both. He was making it for the kids we planned to have, Delilah said softly, touching the armrest. He worked on it at night, saying he'd finish when we had good news. What'll you do with it? Delilah thought, picturing the hope in every cut. Take it with me. Maybe Ephraim can finish what Thomas started. The words meant more than they said. Martha wrapped the chair in an old quilt, treating it like a dream not fully gone. As they worked, Martha shared town gossip. Who was dating who, which families were leaving before winter, what the preacher said about souls. You know, people will talk, Martha said, folding Delilah's good dress into a trunk. People always talk. Ephraim said the same thing. And you don't care? Delilah thought about it. 2 years ago, she cared a lot about what neighbors thought. Now, choosing between gossip and survival, it was clear. I care more about surviving winter than what Mrs. Patterson thinks. Martha laughed. Mrs. Patterson's been trying to marry her daughters to Ephraim since he got to town. She'll lose it when she hears you got him. I didn't get him. He chose me. That mattered, though Delilah couldn't say why. He could have had any single woman around, but he came to me. Why do you think? Another question that kept Delilah up, thinking about Ephraim's words about her strength, seeing something others missed. He said he wanted someone who doesn't give up, someone who fights for what's hers, even when it's hard. And that's you. Delilah looked around the bedroom she'd shared with Thomas, at the faded walls and drafty window. She'd fought for this place, bled for it, nearly died for it. But what had it gotten her besides another day alive? Maybe it used to be. Maybe it's time to fight for something bigger. They finished packing quietly, each lost in thought. As Martha got ready to leave, she turned with a serious look. I have to ask, as your friend, are you attracted to him? To Ephraim? Delilah's cheeks got hot. Martha, it's a real question. You'll be sharing a bed, maybe having his kids. That stuff matters, especially in a marriage starting without love. The question made Delilah face feelings she'd ignored. When Ephraim stood close, when his big hands held hers, when he talked about kids and futures, did she feel more than gratitude? He's big, she said carefully, but not scary. When he looks at me, I feel like he sees something worth keeping safe. That's not what I asked. Delilah met Martha's knowing eyes. Yes, I'm attracted to him. Heaven help me. I'm attracted to my dead husband's replacement. Thomas isn't being replaced, Martha said. He's being honored by you choosing to live. The words were what Delilah needed, even if she wasn't ready to believe them. After Martha left, Delilah sat in her nearly empty house, imagining life in 8 days. Mrs. Ephraim Cutter, living in a strange house, sleeping with a man she barely knew, promising to have kids for someone who chose her for her strength, not her looks. It should have scared her. Instead, she looked forward to tomorrow for the first time in 2 years. 2 days later, Delilah woke to hammering on her roof. She dressed fast and went outside to find Ephraim fixing the leaky shingles. His shirt was sweaty despite the cool air, and he moved with the skill of someone used to hard work. Mr. Cutter? She shaded her eyes, calling up. What are you doing? He stopped, looking down with that calm look she was getting used to. Fixing your roof. Can't let my future wife sleep under a leak. His words warmed her. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He kept hammering, each nail perfect. Plus, it keeps my hands busy while I wait for Sunday. She watched him work, seeing how carefully he placed each shingle. This was a man who finished what he started, who took care of what was his. "There's coffee if you want," she called. "In a bit. Want to finish this before it gets too hot?" Delilah went inside to make breakfast, but kept glancing out the window at him. His big frame moved smoothly on the steep roof. When had anyone fixed things for her without being asked? An hour later, he climbed down and joined her on the porch, taking coffee and eggs with quiet thanks. He ate like food was fuel, but he complimented her cooking. "The roof should hold through winter," he said, wiping his mouth, "though you won't need it after we're married." "About that," Delilah set down her cup, gathering courage. "I've been thinking about what happens after the wedding." His eyes sharpened. "Having second thoughts?" "No, but I've got questions about what you expect, what kind of wife you want." He leaned back, studying her. "What kind of wife do you want to be?" The question surprised her. Thomas never asked what she wanted, just assumed she'd be happy helping him. But Ephraim was letting her choose. "I want to be useful," she said. "Not just having kids. I can do farm work, manage the house, help with animals if needed. I don't want to be just pretty." "Good, 'cause I wasn't looking for pretty." He finished his coffee and pulled a small leather pouch from his pocket. "I brought you something." Delilah took the soft pouch, noticing its careful stitching. Inside were dried herbs and roots, each in a labeled cloth packet. "Feverfew for headaches," Ephraim said, pointing. "Willow bark for pain, echinacea for staying healthy, chamomile for sleep, ginger for morning sickness when it happens." The thoughtful gift made her eyes water. "You made this yourself?" "Learned from my grandma. She was half Norwegian, half Ojibwe, knew more about healing than any doctor." He watched her look at each packet. "A woman alone needs to know how to care for herself, especially when pregnant." His mention of pregnancy gave her butterflies. "You're so sure it'll happen fast, aren't you?" His question was curious, not pushy. Delilah thought about it. She and Thomas tried for 4 years without a baby, though they thought it would happen eventually. But Ephraim was so different, bigger, bolder, surer. Maybe that meant he could give her what Thomas couldn't. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Thomas and I tried for years and got nothing. Maybe I can't have kids. Or maybe you just needed the right guy." His straightforward tone made the topic easier. "We won't know till we try." Her cheeks got hot thinking about it. In 4 days, she'd be in his bed, learning everything about him. It should have scared her, but it excited her. "I should tell you," she said carefully. "I don't have much experience with that stuff." His eyebrows went up. "How so?" "Thomas was gentle, cared about my comfort. Our times together were quick, not often, mostly to try for a baby." Ephraim was quiet, thinking. Then he spoke gently but firmly. "Delilah, when you're my wife, when we're together, it won't just be about making babies. A husband and wife should enjoy each other, come together because they want to, not just for a result." "I don't know if I can feel that way," she admitted, embarrassed. "You won't know till someone shows you how." He reached across the table, his hand warm over hers. "I'm not Thomas, Delilah. I won't treat you like you're fragile, and I won't say sorry for wanting you, like a man wants his wife. But I'll be patient. I'll wait till you're ready." His promise made her breath catch. When had anyone talked about her wants, her pleasure? Thomas focused on making a baby, but Ephraim was talking about something bigger: partnership, joy, closeness she'd only heard married women whisper about. "How patient?" she asked softly. "As long as you need. Days, weeks, months if I have to." His thumb brushed her knuckles, sending warmth up her arm. "But I hope it won't take long. I hope you'll want me as much as I want you." His words hung like a bridge she wasn't ready to cross. He wanted her, not just for kids or chores, but as a woman. When had anyone looked at her with desire, not pity? "I should get back to work," she said, though she didn't pull her hand away. "In a minute." He turned her hand, looking at her rough calluses. "These will heal when you're not working so hard every day. I like my hands. They show I can take care of myself. And now you'll have proof someone else wants to care for you." He kissed her palm softly, making her shiver. 4 more days, Delilah. 4 days, and you'll never face anything alone again." After he left, Delilah sat with the herb pouch, thinking about the man who gave it to her. He could have picked a younger, prettier woman, but he chose her, with her rough hands and guarded heart. She opened the pouch, smelling the herbs. Feverfew for headaches, willow bark for pain, ginger for morning sickness. He was already thinking of her comfort when pregnant, planning for their baby. For the first time since saying yes, Delilah let herself imagine it. A baby in her arms, a child's laughter in Ephraim's house, his face when she told him she was pregnant. The thought filled her with a sharp longing. Maybe Martha was right. Thomas wasn't being replaced, but honored by her choosing to live, to hope, to believe her story wasn't over. 4 more days. In 4 days, she'd be Mrs. Ephraim Cutter, and her careful, sad life would turn into something new. She pressed her face into her hands, smelling the herbs. For the first time in 2 years, Delilah Marsh believed happiness might be possible. The wedding morning was clear and cold, with a sky that promised snow by night. Delilah woke before dawn in Martha's guest room, keeping the tradition of not seeing her groom. Her breath showed in the chilly air, and she pulled the quilt tighter, trying to calm her racing heart. In hours, she'd marry a man she'd known for a week. Martha came in with a breakfast tray, all business. "Eat," she said, setting it down. "You'll need energy today." Delilah tried some porridge, but her stomach was too jumpy. Instead, she focused on getting ready for the biggest day of her new life. Her wedding dress was simple, her best blue wool, ironed, with her mom's white lace collar. Martha lent her pearl earrings for luck. In her bag, she carried Thomas's ring, no longer on her neck but not ready to be put away. "You look beautiful," Martha said, stepping back after pinning Delilah's hair neatly. "Different, like you're hopeful." "I feel different." Delilah looked in the mirror, seeing color in her cheeks and brightness in her eyes she hadn't had in years. Scared, but different. They got to the church and found a surprising crowd, despite the early hour and simple ceremony. News spread fast in small towns, and half the county came to see the giant cowboy marry the widow. Ephraim waited at the altar with Carl Henley, both in their best clothes, looking stiff. But when Delilah walked down the aisle on Martha's arm, Ephraim's face lit up with wonder. "You're beautiful," he whispered as she stood beside him, his voice just for her. "You look good, too," she said, noticing how his dark suit made his broad shoulders stand out and his blue eyes brighter. Reverend Morrison started, talking about marriage as a sacred thing made by God for comfort and companionship. But Delilah focused on Ephraim beside her, his warmth, steady breathing, the feel of his hand when they said their vows. "Do you, Ephraim Cutter, take this woman as your lawful wife, to have and hold in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, till death parts you?" "I do." His voice was strong, sure, like when he proposed. "And do you, Delilah Marsh, take this man as your lawful husband, to have and hold in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, till death parts you?" Delilah looked at Ephraim, seeing patience, hope, and something deeper that made her chest tight. "I do." The ring he put on her finger wasn't like Thomas's gold one. It was silver, with carvings that caught the church's light. She knew he'd made it himself, like everything he gave her. "By the power given to me by Dakota territory, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Ephraim's big hands gently held her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks, as he leaned down to kiss her softly, like a promise, not a demand. Even so, it warmed her whole body, showing her what Martha meant about attraction. When they pulled apart, Delilah saw satisfaction and desire in his eyes. Their marriage wouldn't lack passion on his part. The crowd clapped and cheered, and for the next hour, Delilah took congratulations from folks she'd known for years, now seeing her differently. She wasn't just the struggling widow anymore. She was Mrs. Ephraim Cutter, wife of a respected man. Martha had set up a simple reception with coffee and cake, full of friendly chatter. But Delilah noticed older women watching her and Ephraim, their looks curious. "They're wondering if you're already pregnant," Martha whispered. "Your quick courtship's got tongues wagging." "Let them wonder," Delilah said, her cheeks warm. "It's not their business." "No, but it'll be if you start showing too soon." The thought made Delilah's stomach flutter. Tonight, she'd share Ephraim's bed for the first time. Tonight, he'd try to keep his promise about her being pregnant by winter. It made her nervous, but excited. As the day went on, she watched her new husband move through the crowd, seeing how easily he earned respect despite being quiet. Men asked his advice on cattle and weather, while women brought him cake and praised his choice of bride. But his eyes kept finding Delilah, claiming her in a way that felt deep and real. When he looked at her like that, she could almost forget their marriage started from need, not love. As the sun set, Ephraim brought their coats. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Cutter?" The name thrilled her. Yes, I think so. The ride to his land went north, through rough country. The wagon, loaded with her things, bounced over rocks as they climbed into the foothills. Ephraim's big stallion and a gentle mare pulled steadily. "Tell me about your house," Delilah said, curious and wanting to break the quiet. "It's sturdy," he said, focusing on the bumpy trail. "Built to last with good wood and stone. 3 bedrooms, big kitchen, a sitting room for evenings. Not fancy, but cozy. 3 bedrooms. One for us, one for guests, one for kids when they come." His talk of kids made her heart race. "I've been working on a cradle at night. Rough so far, but it'll be ready when we need it." Picturing him carving a cradle for their baby warmed her. When had anyone planned so carefully for her happiness? As they climbed, the land got wilder, with rocky hills and pine trees showing tough winters. But it was beautiful, a place for people who liked being on their own. "There," he said, pointing to smoke rising through trees. "Home." Delilah's first look at her new home took her breath away. It was bigger than she expected. Made of golden logs with a wide porch on 3 sides. Window boxes had dead flowers from summer, and a garden showed care despite the late season. "Ephraim, it's beautiful. You sound surprised." "I am. I thought it'd be rough, like a trapper's cabin, not a real home." He helped her down from the wagon, his big hands strong on her waist. "I told you I built it for 3 years, thinking of a wife to share it with. I wanted it worthy of her." Inside, the house was even better. The main room had a huge stone fireplace with a carved wooden mantel, and the furniture was handmade but well crafted. It was clean but felt like a man lived alone. "I'll show you the rest," Ephraim said, carrying her trunk to the bedrooms. Their room was big and bright, with windows facing east for morning sun. The bed was huge, built for Ephraim's size, covered with blue and green quilts. Seeing it made Delilah nervous. "I'll give you time to settle," Ephraim said, setting her trunk by the bed. "There's hot water if you want to wash. I'll be in the kitchen when you're ready." Alone in the room where their marriage would grow close, Delilah unpacked her few things, hanging dresses in the wardrobe and placing her brush and mirror on the dressing table. At the bottom of her trunk, wrapped in paper, was the wooden spoon Ephraim carved for her during their short courtship. She'd almost forgotten it, but now she held it to the lamplight, seeing the careful work. It was simple but polished smooth, with tiny carved wild roses on the handle. The spoon showed everything she was learning about Ephraim, his care for details, his focus on lasting things, his quiet way of showing he cared. He'd carved it thinking of her hands, their shared meals, the closeness growing between them. She was holding the spoon when Ephraim knocked softly. "Delilah, supper's ready if you're hungry." "Coming," she called, placing the spoon on the dressing table where she'd see it every morning. In the kitchen, he'd made a hearty meal: venison stew, fresh bread, and wild berry jam. They ate mostly quietly, both knowing the night would bring the moment they'd been heading toward since his proposal. "You nervous?" he asked, setting down his coffee cup, watching her in the lamplight. "Yes," she admitted, "but not how I thought I'd be." "How are you nervous?" Delilah thought how to explain her mix of excitement and worry. "I'm nervous I won't be what you want, that I won't know how to be the wife you need." "What kind of wife do you think I need?" "I don't know. Someone warmer, maybe. Someone who comes to your bed with love, not duty." Ephraim was quiet, thinking. "Delilah, I didn't marry you expecting you to be someone else. I married you for who you are. A woman strong enough to survive what would break most people, honest enough to say her fears, brave enough to trust a stranger with her future." And if I can't love you like a wife should? He knelt beside her chair, eye to eye. Then we'll build something else. Respect, friendship, partnership. Not every marriage is all passion, but the best ones have trust and real care. Is that enough for you? It's a start. He touched her face, his thumb on her cheekbone. But I think you'll surprise yourself with time and patience. His promise made her lean into his touch. For the first time since saying, yes, Delilah believed their strange start might lead to something beautiful. Their first night as husband and wife was gentle, Ephraim keeping his promise to be patient while still acting as her husband. When Delilah woke curled against his warm chest, she felt different, not just from the night, but from his kind way of showing her new feelings. The days after fell into a rhythm that felt new but familiar. Ephraim got up before dawn to care for his cattle and horses. Delilah took over the house, making his bachelor place feel like a real home. She learned he liked simple food, but cared about quality, and her cooking earned his real thanks. "Where'd you learn to make bread this good?" he asked one morning, smelling a warm loaf. "My mom," she said, pouring his coffee. "She said feeding your family well was a big way to show love. She was smart. She died when I was 17, before I married Thomas. I wonder what she'd think of this, marrying a stranger at 30. Ephraim buttered his bread, thinking, "I think she'd be proud you chose life over giving up. That's real courage." His words warmed her, showing how different he was from Thomas, who didn't think so deeply. Ephraim brought the same care to talks as he did to work. After breakfast, while he did outdoor chores, Delilah explored her new home. Besides the house, there was a big barn for horses, a shed for grain and tools, and a smokehouse with summer's hunting leftovers. Everything was neat and organized, but in the room for future kids, she found something special, her mom's Bible, hidden in a trunk under blankets. She'd thought it was sold to pay Thomas's debts. Finding it here felt like a sign her marriage was meant to be. "You bought it back," she said at lunch, holding the Bible close. "Bought what?" He hung his hat, then saw it. "Oh, the Bible. How'd you know it was mine?" "Mrs. Patterson said you sold family stuff to pay debts. I found the guy who bought it and made him an offer." He shrugged like it was no big deal. "A woman needs her mom's Bible, especially starting a new life." His kindness made her cry. "Thank you. You don't know what this means." "I think I do." He stepped closer, his face soft. "We all need something to tie us to who we were before life changed." That night, by the fireplace, Delilah sat in a simple rocking chair Ephraim made, not Thomas's unfinished one still, in the barn. She opened her mom's Bible to the family record, seeing her dad's handwriting, births, deaths, marriages. "Can I see?" Ephraim asked, sitting beside her. She handed it over, watching him trace the names of her grandparents, parents, and her marriage to Thomas. "There's room for more," he said. Yes, she knew what he meant. Soon there'd be her marriage to Ephraim and maybe their kids' names. "I've been thinking about names," he said, closing the Bible. "If it's a boy, I'd like Eric after my grandpa." "You pick the middle name, something from your family. If it's a girl, that's all you." His sure talk of kids, like they were certain, mixed hope and worry in her. It was 3 weeks since their wedding, 3 weeks of sharing his bed. Was it too soon for signs of a baby? "Ephraim," she said carefully, "what if I don't get pregnant as fast as you hope? What if it takes months or years?" He stared at the fire, thinking, "Then we'll have time to know each other, to build what makes good parents. And if I never get pregnant, if I can't," the fear she'd carried since his proposal, that she'd fail to give him what he wanted most, "then we'll find other ways to make a family. There are kids who need homes, who need the love we could give." He looked at her. "Delilah, I married you for a partner, not just kids. If we get kids, I'll be thankful. If not, I'm still lucky to have you." His honesty made her throat tight. "You say that now, but in 5 or 10 years, when your friends have kids and grandkids and we're alone, then we'll be alone together and that's enough." He took her hand, linking their fingers. "But I feel good about us, about what we can make." "What kind of feeling?" "The kind that says our story's just starting, that the best is coming." He kissed her knuckles. You'll give me kids, Delilah. Maybe not this month or year, but someday. And they'll be lucky to have a mom who fights for what matters. That night, in their big bed, Delilah thought about the future Ephraim saw. Kids running through the house, laughing, a daughter with her dark hair or a son with his blue eyes. "What are you thinking?" he asked, sleepy. "The kids will have what they'll look like, who they'll be, and I think they'll be lucky to have you as a dad." She studied his face in the moonlight. "You're not what I expected when you came to my door." "What did you expect? Someone tougher, maybe, more demanding? Big guys like you don't usually have your kind of patience." "Maybe, 'cause most guys my size don't need patience. People give you what you want when you're this big. But the best things, respect, love, trust, you gotta earn those. Is that what you're doing? Earning my love? Every day." His answer was simple, honest, powerful. "Every day, I try to show I'm worth the trust you gave me." When you said yes. 3 weeks married, and Delilah felt her guarded heart softening for this man who carved spoons, bought back Bibles, and spoke of their future so surely. It wasn't the wild love she had for Thomas, but something deeper, built on respect and connection. Maybe that was enough, maybe better than before, based on real understanding, not young excitement. As she fell asleep in his arms, Delilah believed their practical start could lead to something amazing. A knock came on a gray November morning as snow started dusting the mountains. Delilah was kneading bread dough when she heard horses and a firm knock. Ephraim answered, and she recognized Samuel Morrison, the banker from town. "Mr. Cutter, Mrs. Cutter," Morrison said formally, holding a manila envelope and looking uneasy. "Sorry to bother you, but there's a problem that needs attention now." Delilah wiped her hands and joined them, seeing Morrison's discomfort. She'd known him 6 years, borrowed money from his bank for Thomas's seeds. Whatever brought him 20 miles on a snowy day wasn't good. "What problem?" Ephraim asked, his voice calm but steady. Morrison pulled out legal papers, crackling in the dry air. "It's about Mrs. Cutter's old property. There's an issue with Thomas Marsh's estate." Delilah felt faint. "What issue?" "Thomas's debts were paid. I lost the house, but everything was settled." "That's what we thought, ma'am. But there's a debt we didn't know about." Morrison looked at the papers. "A promissory note for $800 signed by Thomas with 2 witnesses. The creditor has proof it's real." "800?" Delilah whispered. "That's impossible. Thomas never borrowed that much without telling me." "The debt's from 6 months before he died," Morrison said. "It was for seeds and equipment for a bigger crop that spring." Delilah remembered Thomas's excitement about a bigger harvest, how he said he had it under control. "Who's the creditor?" Ephraim asked, his voice dangerously calm. "Jonathan Blackwood, a lender from Rapid City." Morrison checked his papers. "He wants the $800 plus interest, now over $1,000. The number hit Delilah like a punch. $1,000 was more than most families saw in 2 years. "And if we don't pay?" Ephraim's voice was tighter. Morrison looked uneasy. "Blackwood can take assets worth the debt. Since Mrs. Cutter was Mrs. Marsh then, and now married to you, the debt's yours too." "What assets?" Delilah asked, dreading the answer. "Your homestead, Mr. Cutter. This property and everything on it. Blackwood says it's worth about $100 or $200, enough to cover the debt with some left." The silence was heavy. Delilah felt the world spin. Thomas's secret debt could take everything Ephraim built. "Let me see the papers," Ephraim said, moving. Carefully. He read them thoroughly, his eyes narrowing. "This signature," he pointed to Thomas's name. "You're sure it's real?" "A handwriting expert in Sioux Falls confirmed it matches Thomas's bank signatures," Morrison said, sympathetic. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cutter." Delilah sank into a chair, her legs weak. 1 month of marriage, 1 month of feeling safe, and now Thomas's debt threatened it all. "When does Blackwood want payment?" Ephraim asked. "Right away. He'll start legal action in 10 days if you don't pay." 10 days. Ephraim set the papers down, his face unreadable. "No way. To fight it? The papers look solid, Mr. Cutter. The witnesses are alive and will swear it's real unless you prove fraud or forgery." Morrison's words hung heavy. Without proof, they'd lose everything. After Morrison left, promising to delay Blackwood, Delilah and Ephraim sat in their kitchen, staring at the papers threatening their new life. "I'm sorry," Delilah said, tears in her voice. "I'm so sorry, Ephraim. I didn't know about this debt." "I know you didn't." His voice was kind, not blaming. "Thomas probably didn't want you to worry. But now you lose everything because of him. Because of me." She covered her face, overwhelmed. "I've brought you nothing but trouble. Delilah, look at me." He knelt beside her when she didn't move. "Look at me." She met his eyes, expecting anger, but saw only steady strength. "This house is just wood and stone," he said firmly. "Important, but we can replace it. What matters is we face this together, not letting Thomas's debt ruin what we're building." "How can you say that? You spent 3 years on this place for our family. Now it's gone because you married me." "I married you for a partner, to face challenges together. This is one." He squeezed her hands. "We'll find a way." "What way?" "We don't have $1,000, and 10 days isn't enough to get it." Ephraim looked out the window, thinking. "We sell the cattle, all of them." "Your cattle?" Delilah stared, shocked. "Ephraim, that's your whole life's work." "I can and will." His tone was final. "The herd's worth enough to pay Blackwood and leave us something to start over." "Start over where?" "If we lose this house, we'll build another. Maybe not as nice, maybe not here, but a home." He paced, planning. "Land's cheap west, where others won't settle. We can claim some, build something solid." His willingness to give up everything for her guilt and maybe love. "Why?" she asked. "Why give up so much for a month-old marriage?" He stopped, his look tender. "Because I meant my vows. For better or worse, in good times and bad. This is the bad part, Delilah. This is where we show our marriage is strong. But your dreams? My dreams were about a family, building, something lasting with someone I trust and respect, maybe love." He took her hands. "The place doesn't matter. The house size doesn't matter. What matters is we're together, facing the future as a team." That night, planning to sell the cattle, Delilah studied Ephraim's face in the moonlight. 6 weeks ago, she was a lonely widow. Now her past threatened his future, but he saw their problems as shared. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. "Yes, you do." His reply was sure. "You deserve someone who stands by you when it's hard, who doesn't quit when life gets messy. That's what marriage is, Delilah. That's what love looks like when it's more than just feelings." As she fell asleep, Delilah realized Thomas's debt might cost their house, but it showed their marriage could survive anything. The next 3 days were busy, Ephraim selling his life's work with his usual care. Word spread and buyers came to see the cattle, offering low prices because they knew he had to sell. Delilah watched from the kitchen as he dealt with friends, showing no anger despite the unfair deals. Martha arrived on the 3rd day, finding Delilah packing their things. "I heard about the debt," Martha said, sitting on the bed. "Everyone's talking. Some say it's fishy Blackwood waited till you remarried to claim it." "Fishy how?" Delilah stopped folding, hopeful. "Think about it. If Thomas owed this guy, why wait 2 years till you married someone with stuff to take?" The thought chilled Delilah. "You think the debt's fake?" "I think the timing's too perfect." Martha's face was serious. "Carl's been asking around. Nobody remembers." "Thomas mentioning a Rapid City debt, but the signature's real, says the expert." "Signatures can be faked, especially with Thomas's bank papers." Martha leaned closer. "Carl says we should wire the territorial marshal for an investigation before you lose everything." Hope flickered, but Delilah stayed practical. "Even if it's fake, we've got 7 days before Blackwood takes the house." "How long's an investigation?" "I don't know, but it's worth a try, right? This house, this life with Ephraim, it's worth fighting for." Before Delilah could answer, loud voices came from the yard. Through the window, they saw Ephraim, arguing with a thin, fancy-dressed stranger. "That's gotta be Blackwood," Martha whispered, "here to check out his prize." They watched the talk get heated, Ephraim's calm cracking as the man waved at the house. Finally, Ephraim stormed inside. "Delilah," he called, "come outside, please. Mr. Blackwood has questions about the debt." Jonathan Blackwood was a soft-looking man in his 40s, in a suit worth a year's pay. His eyes were cold, like he was sizing her up. "Mrs. Cutter?" he said, fake polite. Sorry to meet like this. Business is business, and your husband's debt needs paying. Thomas never told me about borrowing from you, Delilah said, steady. I handled our money. I'd know about a big loan. Blackwood's smile was smug. Maybe he kept it from you. Men often hide business from their wives, especially risky stuff. Thomas and I had no secrets. Still, the debt's real, signed and witnessed. I'm being kind. You can stay till spring to find a new place. I don't want to kick a family out in winter. His fake kindness made her skin crawl. Convenient you waited till now, Ephraim said calmly. 2 years after Thomas died, just when his widow married someone with stuff to take. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. I don't like what you're saying, Mr. Cutter. I've been chasing this debt legally since Mr. Marsh died. These things take time, especially when a widow moves and remarries. Moves? Ephraim said. My wife stayed in the same house 2 years. You could have found her. Legal stuff takes time. Blackwood checked his fancy watch. You've got 6 days to pay or lose the property. Use them well. After he left, Delilah and Ephraim stood in the yard, watching his carriage disappear. The silence was heavy with fear and suspicion. He's lying, Delilah said. Something's off about him in this whole thing. I agree, but proving it's hard. Ephraim's jaw was tight. Martha said to contact the marshal for an investigation. Carl's asking around. Nobody remembers Thomas talking about a Rapid City debt. It's worth a shot. Ephraim turned to the house, determined. I'll wire the marshal today. Explain everything. Ask for help. It might delay Blackwood till we find proof. That night, while Ephraim sent the telegram, Delilah walked through their house, touching things she might lose. In the spare room, she found wood planks, shaped and sanded for a baby's cradle. Ephraim was working on it secretly, believing in their child. Seeing it, with their crisis looming, made her cry. How could she tell him her period came that morning, showing she wasn't pregnant? Martha found her sitting by the cradle wood, tears falling. Oh, honey, Martha said, sitting beside her. The debt's not your fault. Thomas's choices aren't on you. It's not just the debt. Delilah touched the cradle rail. I'm not pregnant, Martha. 6 weeks and nothing. What if I can't give him the kids he wants so bad? 6 weeks is nothing. Some women take years and still have big families. But what if I'm one who can't? What if that's why Thomas and I never had kids and Ephraim's wrong? Martha thought carefully. Then you love each other for who you are, not what you make. Look at what he's giving up. His house, cattle, plans. That's not a man who only cares about kids. But kids were his promise. By winter, I'd be pregnant. What happens when winter comes and I'm empty? You'll face it together like this debt. Martha squeezed her hand. I've seen you two these weeks. What you have isn't just about babies. It's about a partnership that can handle anything. When Ephraim came back, he had hopeful but tricky news. The marshal would investigate, but it'd take weeks. Meanwhile, they had to find proof the debt was fake. I sent word to Rapid City banks, too, he said, getting ready for bed. If Blackwood's legit, someone knows his ways. If he's a crook, that'll show, too. And if we can't prove it before the deadline, we stick to the plan, sell what we can, pay what we must, start over. He held her close. Either way, we do it together. In the dark, Delilah listened to his steady breathing, trying to find comfort. Tomorrow brought them closer to losing everything, but also to testing their marriage's strength. In 6 days, they'd know if Blackwood could take their home. But tonight, in Ephraim's arms, Delilah believed some things. Love, trust, couldn't be taken by papers or lies. Ephraim, she whispered, whatever happens, marrying you was my best choice. His arms tightened. Even if it costs. Everything I built? Even then, because what we're building is worth more than any house or money. His tension eased for the first time since the news. Sleep, Mrs. Cutter. Tomorrow we fight for our future. The breakthrough came on the 5th day, with Carl Henley riding up fast, face red with cold and excitement. We found him, he said, jumping off his horse. The guy who faked Thomas's signature? Delilah's knees went weak with relief. Who? Henry Walsh, old bank clerk at Morrison's, caught stealing. The marshal found him in Denver. Carl showed a crumpled telegram. When they threatened jail, he spilled everything. Ephraim read the telegram, satisfied. Walsh says he forged the note. Blackwood hired him last year to make fake debts for dead men whose widows remarried into property. Walsh knew Thomas's signature from bank records. The witnesses? Delilah whispered. Morrison said they'd swear it was real. Blackwood's buddies. The marshal arrested them all yesterday. Carl grinned. Walsh kept records of their scam, listing other families they hit. We weren't the first, Delilah said, but we'll be the last. Relief hit her hard. She grabbed Ephraim's hand, needing his steadiness. The debt's gone, Ephraim said. Certain. Completely gone. Blackwood has no claim on our home or anything. Carl folded the telegram. The marshal's coming tomorrow to take your statements and close the case. That night, by their fireplace in their safe home, Delilah felt overwhelmed. Relief, gratitude for friends, and awe at how close they'd come to losing it all. I keep thinking about the cradle, she said, watching the fire. What cradle? Ephraim's voice was careful, but his shoulders tensed. The one you're building in the spare room. You thought I didn't know? She looked at his flushed face. Were you going to surprise me? I wanted to finish it when we had something to celebrate. His eyes were soft. I didn't want to talk about it till we knew you were pregnant. His hope hurt her. How could she tell him her body failed again? Ephraim, she started, then stopped. You're not pregnant. His voice was quiet, not angry. How'd you know? I've been watching, hoping for signs that didn't come. He took her hands. I saw you washing linens you wouldn't need if you were pregnant. Her cheeks burned. I'm sorry. I know you were hoping. Don't be sorry. His voice was firm but kind. We've been married 7 weeks. Some couples wait years for a baby. But your promise was so sure? It was hope, not a guarantee. I can't control when kids come, only how ready we are. She searched. His face for anger but saw only patience. Are you mad I haven't given you what you want most? What I want most is a marriage with trust and care. Kids will be great, but they're not the base of what we're building. He squeezed her hands. Plus, we've got time to learn each other before kids complicate things. Learn each other how? His smile warmed her. Learn what makes you laugh, what you need from me as a husband, not just a dad. Time to build a partnership that'll make us good parents. And if I can't have kids, then we'll have something beautiful anyway. He kissed her palms. Delilah, I married you for your strength, honesty, and bravery. Those don't go away if we don't have kids. His words brought tears. I love you, she said, the words slipping out. Ephraim froze, searching her face. Say that again. I love you. She said it clearly, knowing it fully. I don't know when or how, but somewhere between your proposal and now, I fell for my husband. Delilah, he pulled her. Close, his hands shaking. I've waited for those words since I saw you chopping wood. I loved your strength, your fight, the way you looked at me like I might be worth a chance. He cupped her face, wiping tears she didn't know were falling. Every day since, I found new reasons to love you. His kiss was full of weeks of built-up passion, no longer held back. It was a man claiming his wife, a woman ready to be claimed. They made love that night with a closeness that changed their careful connection into something like worship. In Ephraim's arms, Delilah found parts of herself she didn't know existed, waiting for the right man to wake them. After, lying together, he traced her shoulder. I have something for you, he said, reaching to the bedside table. Another gift? She saw his nervous excitement. What's it for? For my wife saying she loves me. He held up a gold ring with a small, sparkling diamond. This was my grandma's, brought from Norway when she was 18, in love with a man who promised adventure. He slipped it above her wedding band, a perfect fit. She wore it 60 years, through 6 kids and losing 2. She made my grandpa promise it'd go to the woman I'd love. Delilah admired the ring, but more. The way it glowed, the way her heart felt too big. It's the most beautiful thing I own, she whispered. You're the most beautiful thing I've been blessed to love, he said. As she fell asleep wearing his grandma's ring, Delilah marveled at her changed life. 2 months ago, she had no future. Now she was loved, safe, valued. Tomorrow, the marshal would end Blackwood's threat. But tonight was theirs, for the love they found and the future they'd build. The marshal came next morning with 2 deputies. carrying papers to lock up Blackwood forever. Marshal William Hayes, in his 50s, looked worn from years of law work in wild places. "Mrs. Cutter, Mr. Cutter," he said, taking Delilah's coffee, "all claims on your property are gone. Blackwood's in jail in Rapid City with his crew." "What'll happen to him?" Delilah asked, hardly believing it was over. "Prison, likely. Fraud across territories is serious, and he hit at least a dozen families." Hayes checked his notes. "He picked people he thought couldn't fight back. He didn't expect your community to rally." Ephraim relaxed slightly. "How big was his scam?" "Bigger than we thought. 3 years, targeting widows who remarried into property across Dakota, Montana, Wyoming." Hayes smiled grimly. "Your case stood out because you fought back." "We had help," Delilah said, thinking of Martha, Carl, and Morrison. "That saved others, too." Hayes took more coffee. "Sign statements for the record, and you're done." They spent an hour telling their story, Hayes listening carefully, asking sharp questions. "One more thing," he said, leaving. "Blackwood kept records of his targets, rating your homestead high value, low risk." "Low risk?" Ephraim raised an eyebrow. "Isolated, new marriage, few ties. He thought you'd pay, not fight." Hayes smiled. "He didn't count on your strength or your town's support." After he left, Delilah stood in their kitchen, looking at their home, now more precious. The furniture, the light on the table, the mountain view, all safe. "What are you thinking?" Ephraim asked, hugging her from behind. "How close we came to losing this. How different life would have been." "Different, not worse." His voice was thoughtful. "We'd have built something new, made it beautiful. You think we could have been happy in a rough cabin somewhere? I think we'd be happy anywhere together." He turned her, to face him. "The house doesn't make the home. The people do." She touched his face, amazed by his certainty. "How'd you get so wise? 34 years learning what we can live without. But love, trust, friendship, those you can't replace." They spent the day in normal tasks, but with a celebratory feel. Ephraim worked on the cradle, no longer hiding it. Delilah planned their first Christmas, thinking of new traditions. By the fire that night, with the finished cradle between them, Delilah admired its craftsmanship. Perfect joints, smooth wood, wild roses like her spoon, their initials carved together. "It's beautiful," she said, touching the rails. "Any baby would be lucky to sleep here." "I keep imagining it," Ephraim said softly. "Our child sleeping, knowing we made something perfect." His longing hurt her. "Ephraim, what if—" "No more what-ifs about kids." He took her hand. "They'll come when they're ready. Till then, we practice being people who deserve to be parents." "What kind?" "People who love enough to handle any storm, who put family first, who know the best gift for kids is parents who love each other." Getting ready for bed, Delilah saw herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman from 2 months ago. This woman had color, bright eyes, looked loved and safe. "I look different," she said, as Ephraim joined her. "You look happy," he said, hands on her shoulders, "like a woman who knows she's valued. Is that what you see?" "I see the strongest person I know who faced losing everything twice and kept fighting. The mom of my kids, the partner I'll grow old with." That night, making love slowly, Delilah thought of the future Ephraim saw. Kids, grandkids, a family filling their home. Even if it was just them, it would be enough, because their love and commitment were more than she'd dreamed. As she fell asleep in his arms, wearing his grandma's ring, Delilah thanked the path that brought Ephraim to her. His bold promise seemed impossible, but now she knew promises were kept through love, not force. Spring came early to Dakota in March, with warm winds melting snow and filling streams. Delilah stood at their window, watching buds on Ephraim's apple trees, her hand on the small swell of her belly where their baby grew. Morning sickness started in January, during winter's worst. At first, she thought it was bad food, but when it kept up with tiredness, Martha rode through snow to confirm Delilah's hope. "Ephraim," she called softly, "sun's up." He stirred, reaching for her hand, resting it on her belly. "Morning, little one," he said, smiling against her shoulder. "Your mom and I can't wait to meet you." 4 months along, Martha said, so the baby would come in late summer, perfect for recovery before winter. I dreamed about him. Again, Delilah said, settling into Ephraim's arms. Him? He teased. Still sure it's a boy? I'm sure it's what we need, boy or girl. She studied his face. But yeah, I think it's a boy. Eric, the name they chose, mixing Ephraim's grandpa and her family's simple names. For a girl, Anna after her mom. Eric Cutter, Ephraim said, testing it. I like it. Just Eric, not Eric Thomas. She'd suggested Thomas's name to honor him. If you want, but Thomas would be happier with our joy than his name on our kid. His hand circled her belly. He loved you enough to want you to love again. The kitchen smelled of bread and coffee thanks to Martha's visit. She'd taken to making sure Delilah didn't overdo it, bringing food and advice weekly. Eat, Ephraim said, seeing Delilah poke at her porridge. The baby needs food. The baby doesn't want food today. She forced a bite, fighting nausea. Martha said it'll stop soon. Martha says a lot, she smiled, thankful for her friend. After breakfast, Ephraim planted crops, while Delilah did light chores. Dusting furniture they almost lost. She thought how different this spring was from last year's struggle. Now she was a loved wife, soon a mom, never alone again. The baby's first kicks started weeks ago, small flutters now clear pushes, reminding her of the life inside. Sharing them with Ephraim, his face glowed with wonder. That afternoon, horses brought Carl Henley and others from town. Ephraim, Delilah called. Visitors. It was a baby party, planned by Martha. Women brought clothes, blankets, toys. Men made a rocking horse for the nursery. This is too much, Delilah said, overwhelmed by their kindness. Nonsense, Martha said. Every baby deserves a party, and every mom needs to know her town's got her back. As kids played and adults chatted, Delilah saw the bigger family they were building. Not just her, Ephraim, and their baby, but a community. You look content, Ephraim said that evening on their porch watching the sunset. I am. More than that, I'm grateful. She leaned against him, hand on her belly where their baby moved. For you being brave to propose to a stranger. For me being desperate enough to say yes. For the challenges showing we can handle anything. She looked at him. For this little one making us a real family. We were already a real family, he said gently. The baby just makes it bigger. From their porch, they saw their garden, pastures and barn, a thriving home built by two people. But more, it was filled with love, laughter, proof their unlikely start grew into something lasting. I never thanked you properly, Delilah said as stars appeared. For what? For keeping your promise. You said by winter I'd be pregnant. Winter passed, and I thought you were wrong, but you were just early, spring, not winter. His hand joined hers on her belly, feeling their baby. Timing doesn't matter. What matters is we trusted each other enough for love to grow. He kissed her temple. Now we finish what we started. Welcome our child. Raise him strong and kind like his mom. Love each other through whatever's next. In the dark, surrounded by their home, Delilah thought of Thomas, her grief, Ephraim's bold proposal, and their trials. Most, she thought of their baby, who'd grow up knowing his parents' love, secure in a family that stood together. That, crazy promise, by winter you'll have my son, seemed impossible once. But promises, Delilah learned, weren't about timing. They were about faith, believing love could grow from tiny seeds, that two lonely people could make something beautiful. If they were brave enough, as she fell asleep in Ephraim's arms, their baby moving, their love wrapping her like a blanket, Delilah knew some promises were worth waiting for. Some fairy tales, the best ones, didn't start with once upon a time, but with a desperate woman, a determined man, and the courage to believe in happy endings, even in the tough frontier life. Outside, the spring wind whispered through pines, promising summer warmth, autumn harvests, a child's first cry, and a lifetime of love from an unlikely start. By their bed, the cradle held a quilt Delilah sewed, stitched with hope and love, turning a marriage of need into a love story for generations. The giant cowboy kept his promise, just not how anyone expected. By spring, not winter, his wife carried their child. But, more by spring, they'd built a love stronger than any house, lasting through all their seasons, like the apple trees soon to bloom, bearing fruit for years to come.